Hey everyone, my name is Ousmane Diallo, talking to you from Senegal. I am pleased today to introduce the topic Understanding UDL Framework for More Inclusive Pedagogy. On the occasion of this West Africa TESOL, I hope that you will enjoy it. I would like to thank the organizers, the US Embassy, and all the teachers who are participating in this give, uh, experience of sharing regarding teaching and learning. Well, without any further delay, I'm going to read you the objective of this presentation. So, participant of this will use a variety of UDL teaching method, meet the need of each student in their classroom, provide students with access, support, and challenges, be knowledgeable about the UDL resource available in the website about CAST, that is say the Center for Applied Specialized Technology. Okay, I particularly like this topic because first of all, I uh, happen to have had student with learning disability in my classes, but also I had the chance of auditing a special education course, uh, and these are the main reason why I'm interested in UDL framework, because I feel that it can help us solve the problem, some of the problem that we're facing in our everyday teaching. So I wanted it to be known, okay, for people to know that there is a framework, if exploited, could really help us. It's the problem that we have in our everyday teaching. I don't know what's going on in other countries, but I hope that you will find it relevant. Okay. So uh, we assume that UDL uh, take into account diverse learners. And since that's the case, any curriculum should be presented in a very flexible way. And the goal is to engage, challenge, support all learners. So we can see that UDL is inclusive by design. Uh, Second point is uh, an attempt at defining what UDL is, according to Amanda Morin from Understood, that I recommend. UDL gives all children equal opportunity to succeed. It's an approach that uh, stresses flexibility in the way, okay, material is accessed and in the way students are given the opportunity to show what they know. So UDL not only, okay, helps the student, but also it keeps them motivated, okay, for its implementation. So we can see that the UDL, the Universal Design for Learning, is an approach to curriculum that minimize barriers in learning and maximize learning itself. They say everything is put in place to help the student succeed, and everything is put in place in order to help the student, to prevent the student from failing. So what could be the difference to identify between UDL and traditional teaching? Okay, if we look at this comparison, we can see that if the UDL teaching with UDL, teaching focuses on how learning objective can be met, In the traditional teaching focuses on what is taught. In UDL, content is accessible to all, whereas in the traditional teaching, content is accessible to most students. The teachers work with the student to decide how the student will learn the material, whereas the teacher decides how the material is taught. Last but one, grades are used to reinforce goals, whereas in traditional teaching, grades are used to measure performance. So you have a roughly comparison between UDL and the traditional teaching here. If in the traditional teaching, the way of teaching is vertical, in the UDL, we involve the student, we put less importance on grades, okay, as a means of performance and so on. Okay. Now, what do we learn from this is that with UDL, we have to be smart from the start. That is, say, we have to take into account lots of things, okay, right from the beginning, okay? So, because we should show that the way people learn is as different as their fingerprints. We all know what fingerprints is all about, okay? No one has the same fingerprint as another one. So it means that the classrooms are highly diverse and curriculum need to be designed, okay? Having at the back of our mind that, okay, each student has his specific way of learning, specific abilities and so on. So right from the start to meet this diversity. So this leads us to unpack the UDL concept itself, okay, to break down the concept and see what each word conveys as a meaning. If you take universal, it shows that the curriculum can be used and understood by everyone, that every learner has his strength, his needs, and interests, but also has his own social background and so on. Okay. Also, it shows that curriculum should provide genuine learning opportunity for each student. You have the term learning. What neuroscience tells us about learning is that our brain has three broad networks: that of recognition, that is the what of learning, skills and strategies, the how of learning, and the one for caring and prioritizing, that is the why for learning. We'll come back to it. What we can understand here is students need to gain knowledge, skills, and enthusiasm. Not only knowledge, but get skills. And this should be underpinned or fueled by the enthusiasm that they have in learning. And all this, the curriculum need to do if it should happen, you see. Also, we learn another thing from this, that one size fits all fits no one. Because of the diverse types of student that we have in our classes, every learner is unique and different. What works for one may not work for another. So it's sufficient reason for us to diversify. And that's why the term design is absolutely important, okay? Universal design for learning, it's the design now that we command, okay? And with reference to the features of universal building, design building, okay, we see that these buildings are characterized by their flexibility and the fact that they accommodate for all users. It is absolutely very important. Okay, so UDL, the UDL framework seems to have borrowed from this design of buildings, their approach to improve pedagogy. And that's why you have here from pedagogy, from architecture to pedagogy. So there is a kind of a transfer of approach, of design thinking that is adopted in the field of pedagogy in order to better help. But UDL goes beyond access because it also builds support and challenge to the student. Okay, okay. And for start, what the first thing that we ask ourselves is, what is our goal? Okay, the first thing to do is to determine what we want our student to be able to know, care about, and do. And then also to ask the question, like, what are the barriers in the classroom that might hinder our student from doing what we want them to do, before inserting some flexibility in order to ensure the access for all. Very important. So the goal here, we see that the goal is to fit all, even if it is different, in a very different way, because we do not have the same student learning the same way and so on. And that's why I like this quote. Let's say that barriers to learning are not in fact inherent in the learners, but instead arise in learners' interaction with inflexible educational goal, material, methods, and assessments. It's absolutely important. Okay, it is not the student that we are supposed to fix, but it's the environment in which they're evolving, the material that we're using, that we need to adapt to the student. Okay, so the UD universal design for learning is about building in flexibility at each point in the lesson, from the input, the process, through to the product, okay, which coincide to the free broad network that we will that we talked about and we'll come back to. Okay, so it's about maximizing the students' learning. It's about making use of evolving technology. Okay, here is the framework that we're talking about, the universal design framework, that has three components. That is the what of learning, the how of learning, and the why of learning. Okay, that will explain, okay, one by one. Here we have the what of learning, say the content or the input. Okay, the input, that is say everything that you use, okay, that you make available in order to raise the schemata of the student, the multimodal format that you use of media, books, and also all these things that you present for the student to have a choice. Okay. Okay. This is so the multiple means of representation, multiple input or content. It means multiple input content, provide multiple ways for students to access content, highlight critical features, provide examples, okay, consider the format and more, activate background knowledge. And you have the process, okay, this is the how of learning, how far the students are motivated, are engaged, are ready to participate. Okay, you have to provide multiple opportunities, you have to scaffold them, and so on. Okay, give ongoing and relevant feedback, so on. Okay, you have it here. Multiple means of engagement. There's multiple ways to engage in the learning process. Okay, when you give the student a voice or a choice, okay, they will engage. Okay, when you offer adjustable level of challenge, say scaffolding, provide opportunity for natural support and apprenticeship, all these are should be important in order to. Okay, and last but one, you have the product. say the expression, the outcome of the learning, let's say what the student can do with what they have learned. Okay, how can they show what they have learned? You provide choice. Okay, if some students are good at writing, that's the, if some are good at drawing, okay, if others are good in role playing or whatsoever, what matters is to link what they have learned to what is outside in connection with the society. Okay, so multiple ways to demonstrate knowledge. Okay, action and provide flexible way uh, to demonstrate learning, provide ongoing and relevant feedback, to consider multiple product and outcome. So here, the student take ownership of the learning and show what they know. So when you give the student the opportunity to express themselves, okay, their own way, you give them the much chances for them to do the job, because it will be based on what they like, what they can do, and the way they want to do it. So all in all, you have three critical access points here. Let's say the input, how information or content is presented or shared. Okay, let's say the what of learning, and the engagement. It is how students engage or interact with content with the content, but it's say how of learning. Okay, and the expression, how students demonstrate what they know, that coincides or that refers to the okay the why, the why. Okay. So I have a question for you. What would you use in your own practice basing on this guideline that is explained, that has been explained so far? What can you do differently now in your classroom? Okay, differently. I have particularly liked this caption. You have the animals and the teacher, and he is giving them an assignment, but climbing the tree. Why isn't this a fair selection according to you? I will just to corroborate what has been said so far. Look at this multiple intelligence approach developed by Dr. Howard Gardner that I found very relevant. Okay, it teaches that the way people learn is not the same, because people do not have the brain is not made up of the same way. If some people are musical, others are linguistic, others are interpersonal, spatial, others are bodily or kinesthetic, and so on. So we have to take into account these multiple intelligences, and taking these multiple intelligences means applying designing a lesson that answer to the UDO framework, okay, recommendation. So it is all about access to the curriculum. And I've liked this quotation that the mere physical placement of student in general education and the assigning of an aid, I think by aid, I'm thinking of the teacher, does not comprehensively address the needs, support, and accommodation required by law and common sense. So what does it mean? It means that the teacher is not enough, okay? And the vertical method is not enough also, okay? Because the student need support, they need to be given challenge, and so on. They need to take ownership of their learning, and this, the curriculum should be flexible enough. We should not keep on teaching the old way, let's say book and pen and so on, we need to think about the multiple intelligences that are inherent to any human being. We need to think about the disabilities that people might have, be they physical, visual, hearing, or whatsoever. All these are to be taken into account. And if you take them into account, this means really honoring the teacher, the student. Okay, it is really giving them the full potential to grow and succeed in life. So it is up to us now to decide on whether to spend time planning lesson using UDL. It takes time, but I think that the time lost there is the time that we'll found later on, or keep on remediating, because this is what is going on in our school today. Okay, you remediate. Okay, if you have a test, it doesn't work, you're supposed to resume it and so on. So this is what I had to share with you today. Hopefully we will find it relevant, and above all, I hope that it will trigger discussion to see how we can help, really help, better help our students. So this being said, I am waiting for your question. Thank you so much. Thank you. You have the floor. If you have any question, you can raise